You're tuned in to the Burrage Sports Show.
Yo, what's up, everybody? The Burrage Sports Show. We are live in effect. It is NFL playoff time. And I'm one of your hosts, Mike B, and I'm here with my son,
Mike Burr.
Mike Burr, the other host. And we have our super producer, April T, on the ones and twos in the building. We have a really good show for you. We getting right into the NFL playoffs, Mike B, because that's what's going down. That's the hot news item right now. The NFL this Saturday, this Sunday, all the playoff teams rocking and rolling. Let's just kick it off right now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I'll start with the Colts at the Buffalo Bills. Colts were 11-5. Buffalo Bills were 13-3. Give me your insight. I'll let you start off rocking it.
Yeah, I think we got a lot of good matchups in this playoffs, and it's going to be exciting. And starting with this first series, I'm going with the potential MVP, Josh Allen, and the Buffalo Bills. I think they've been on fire recently.
Okay.
I think they got too many weapons. They play tough on defense. They make plays on both sides of the ball. Josh Allen is definitely the most improved player, even if he doesn't win MVP. And so I'm going with Buffalo. I think they just got a little too much for Indiana. Even though they have a great defense, they've struggled to, be a powerhouse on offense, where I think Buffalo can dominate on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go ahead. I got Buffalo 28-17.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, and Buffalo's at home. The governor is going to allow them to have 6,500 fans.
Oh, that's a big factor.
Which, fans are fans. It's good to have fans cheering on. And I like the fact Stephon Diggs is probably one of the best acquisitions for a team we've ever seen. He just fit that team like a hand in a glove.
Yeah.
The wide receiver. He's had a big year. The Colts, though, give them some credit, man. 11-5. They had a real good year this year. Played some real good football. I like the Colts, but I do like Buffalo because they are at home, And I think that's going to be the difference, because it's hard to beat a team like Buffalo on the road, especially because they are going to have some fans.
Yeah, and that's good to see. We know Buffalo has some of the best fans, and they're going to be excited. They haven't been a playoff favorite like this for a long time. The Patriots have dominated that division, so that all the fans that show up are going to be hype. They're going to be loud, and like I said, I think Buffalo is the better team, and if they keep playing like we've seen these last couple of weeks, I think they'll come away with this one.
But Phillip Rivers has made a difference for the Colts.
Yeah,
he got touchdown T.Y. Hilton. They can run the football. Their defense is a really good defense. So the Colts aren't just going to lay down. So I think it's going to be a close game. I'll go 20-17. I think it's going to be a close game because I like Phillip Rivers and I like what that team has become, over time. I like what the Colts have become. But I just think it's going to be a little too tough to overcome on the road.
Yeah.
All right, let me go to another matchup on Saturday. Because we'll do the Saturday games first, and then we'll do the Sunday games.
All right.
Because it's 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. Next, you have and this is a divisional rival, you have the L.A. Rams versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks beat the Rams 20-9. The Rams didn't score a touchdown. This is with Jared Goff playing to win the NFC West. So I know the Seahawks feel like they have their number. Rams got in by beating Arizona Cardinals at the end of the season. Seahawks are 12-4. Rams are 10-6. Who do you like in that matchup? And they're playing in Seattle.
Ooh, that definitely is a big factor. Playing in the weather of Seattle, we know the conditions there at this time of the year versus always sunny LA. And I gotta roll with Russell Wilson. I think he had an MVP type season as well. And the Rams have had some ups and downs. Obviously, the low point of the season is when they lost to the Jets,
True.
So they've been inconsistent at times. Sometimes they haven't been able to put up points consistently. And I got to go with a veteran, Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion. But I think this one's going to be different than the last time they played. I think this is going to be more of a high-scoring game. I think both of these teams, I think both of the offenses are really going to take over. Obviously, you got the Rams. They got Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. They got a solid defense. But I think at the end, it's going to be a shootout. And I got Seattle winning 40-35.
So you going big points.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
Even with Aaron Donald, even with Jalen Hurts, you still think it could be a blowout like that?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think that they're going to put up some points this time. You know, we saw when they played earlier, or the last game they played, it was 20-9. I just got a feeling that both of these offenses are going to come out firing, especially with the game being in Seattle.
Yeah, I like Seattle too. You know, I like Russell Wilson first round. I think he can pull off the magic. Got Metcalf, his long ball guy. And the Rams are kind of up in the air. They don't know if they're going to start their backup quarterback who started against Arizona, John Wolford, or is Jared Goff going to be back? Their coach is being a little mysterious about who's going to be back there. Mm-hmm. But I think it serves to Seattle's advantage. They're going to do a lot better against Wolford, a backup quarterback. He beat Arizona, but it's not like he threw a touchdown pass. And then if they go to Jared Goff has been out, so now he's coming back after being out, and he has to start right in the playoffs. So yeah, I think I like Seattle because I just think they have a little more continuity. They're playing a little better football, and I just can't count Russell Wilson out in the first round.
Yeah, same. I think, it's, having a vet like Russell Wilson, like you said, I just can't see him going out in the first round like that. I think he's going to put up a fight, especially, the Rams, like you said, they've had some ups and downs. They don't even know who's going to start at quarterback or if Goff is fully healthy. And our offense has had some struggles. So, yeah, I think we're on the same page here. What score you got?
I'm going to go 28-14.
Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle. 28-14, Seattle. I like that score. Mm-hmm. Now, the next Saturday game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Washington Redskins. Ooh. They'll be playing in Washington because Washington, they are the NFC East champs, even though they had a losing record. So they do get the home game. Tom Brady and the boys have to come to Washington. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be pretty one-sided. I mean, you got the GOAT, you got Tom Brady. We know all the weapons he has. They're just starting to click with Antonio Brown, and you still got Gronk, you got Mike Evans, and then they got a solid defense as well. And then you got Washington. If they weren't in that bad division, they wouldn't even be considered a playoff team. And plus, just like we talked about the Rams, they don't even know if Alex Smith is going to start or if he's going to play limited snaps. So
yeah, that's true.
They even said they may rotate quarterbacks. And if you're rotating quarterbacks in the playoffs, especially against Tom Brady, I think this game is going to be pretty one-sided. I got Tampa Bay hanging 35 on them. And Washington, I think they'll get a couple garbage touchdowns. So I got them, 35-14 Tampa Bay.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, Washington, they got a miracle by just getting there. NFC East was the worst division in football. Everybody with a losing record. Yeah. Somebody had to win the division. Give Washington a little credit. They did get a little hot near the end. But they're just not the caliber of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so I am going to go with the Bucs because the experience of Tom Brady and the fact that Washington really shouldn't even be there. And their home advantage is not – that probably could be the one thing that could save them, but during COVID, it's not like anybody's going to be in the stands. Yeah. So they won't be able to even draw off that to kind of gain an advantage over the better team. So I'm not even going to go too deep on that. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could beat them probably 40-10. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think once Tom gets going – there's not gonna be a hard game to win. Yeah,
it's you have one of the best teams in the league this year versus a team, and Tampa Bay seems like they're starting to click as well and get used to all the new pieces they have. Whereas Washington, they kind of just benefited from being in a weak division. You know, they snuck in the playoffs. And like you said, it's not even like they have home field. Now, they do have a nice defense. They got some players on defense.
Yeah.
They got some players on offense. But if you're rotating quarterbacks in the playoffs, I just can't see that ending well. And like we said about Russell Wilson, you can't see a player as great as Tom Brady, the GOAT, losing in the first round.
Yeah, I don't see it. All right, so those are the Saturday games. I'll reiterate. Colts versus Buffalo. We both picked Buffalo. Seahawks versus the Rams. We both went with the Seahawks. And the Buccaneers at Washington. And, of course, we picked the Bucs. So we're chalk right now. Yep. We're kind of rolling in the same way. Let's see how we're doing on Sunday, though. Sunday, it is some banana games. I love the games on Sunday.
Yeah.
The first game out the gate on Sunday, Baltimore Ravens versus the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh.
They met in the playoffs last year, and Tennessee beat the Ravens 28, I think. What was the score? 28 to whatever the score was. They beat them last year. 28-12. So now it's kind of a revenge game for the Baltimore Ravens because they felt they were a better team than Tennessee. But Tennessee got hot, made it to the AFC Championship game last year, surprised a lot of people. So Baltimore have been circling this on their calendar all year.
Yeah.
They're playing in Tennessee. They have the exact same record, Baltimore 11-5. Tennessee Titans won the AFC South in the last game of the season. They're 11-5. Who you like in that?
This is a tough game. I like both of these teams, and I think this game is really going to depend on who gets the ball first and who can score points early. I think both of these teams are so good at running the football and playing prevent defense, especially the Ravens defense, but they're both excellent at running the football. So I think they're both a lot better at playing with the lead. The times we've seen these teams struggle is when you force them to throw. But I think still, as of right now today, Ryan Tannehill is a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
We've seen the Ravens win games, and Lamar Jackson will have like 100, 150 yards passing.
True.
He might have 100 yards on the ground too. But to me, he still hasn't shown that if the running game isn't working or if they're down big points, he can throw you to victory. We've seen it in spurts, but against the Tennessee Titans, I'm going with Tennessee. I just think Derrick Henry, Tannehill, I think they're really clicking. We just saw that OT win in Houston.
Oh, and Tannehill threw a dime to win the game.
A beautiful throw to end the game. And these teams are battle. And this season, we talked about the game last season, but the game this season, they went to overtime. And I think Derrick Henry had a runoff touchdown. So it's going to be a battle. But I get the edge to Tennessee. I think they're a little bit better at throwing the football. Even though the Ravens have a better defense. But I think Tennessee is a little bit better at running the football. But like I said, I think whoever gets out early is going to have the best chance to win this game. But I got Tennessee 30 to Baltimore 26.
Okay. Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000-plus yards this season.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. But on the other side, the reigning MVP from last year, Lamar Jackson is the first quarterback to have back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. So I really think it's going to come down to who controls that offensive line and who can run. Because when Derrick Henry has a big game running, Tennessee is pretty much unbeatable.
Yeah.
And I know Tannehill has been pretty much undersung this year. He's been pretty great. But that team revolves around Derrick Henry. And if he has a big game, that 150-plus yard type game, they're pretty much unbeatable. But Lamar Jackson, if you don't have to depend on his arm, if you're depending more on his legs, and then he makes those situational throws, Baltimore is unbeatable. But unfortunately, he hasn't been able to do that in the playoffs. I think his first playoff game, he had 5 picks. Last year in the playoffs, he had 2 picks. So that's 7 picks. and 2 playoff games the last 2 seasons because they had to rely on his arm a little more.
Yeah, and another thing is that the Tennessee Titans coach, Vrabel, he comes from the Patriots lineage. He comes from Belichick.
True.
I think he'll have a game plan to say, hey, if Lamar Jackson beats us throwing the football, we'll just take the L. But we're not going to let him run all over us. So I think that's going to be Tennessee's game plan on defense. They're going to force Lamar to be a passer and force him to stay in the pocket as much as possible, obviously. And so which way are you leaning on this series?
I'm going with the Ravens.
Ooh.
I'm going with the Ravens because I think Lamar Jackson finally gets over the hump. This is his 3rd time in the playoffs. He's 0-2 so far. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to win his first playoff game. And I think he'll win 28-21. I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one. So we got our first disagreement, y'all. Mike Burr's going with the Titans. I'm rolling with the Ravens in this one. I think the MVP going to come through with us. Now, the other Sunday game, very familiar to us. The Saints versus the Bears, playing in New Orleans. The Bears, by a miracle, just got in. They were tale of 2 cities. Started off 5-1.
Yes.
Lost 6 in a row. Came back, got a kind of a quasi-winning streak. Got in the playoffs at 8-8. And that's about where they were. An even team, 8-8. Just as bad as they were good. Saints were on the roll to Drew Brees got hurt, but they still finished the year 11-4. Drew Brees, I think, had like 3 touchdown passes in the last game, so they're kind of getting their rhythm. Their top receiver, Michael Thomas, might be back.
Yeah.
Who caught all of, Drew Brees' balls before he got a little injured. Kamara, I think he was out for COVID, but I think he'll be through the protocol. So Alvin Kamara, their MVP-like running back, will be back in the lineup. The Bears have been running the football well. Montgomery was a 1,000-yard rusher. After, at the beginning of the year, he couldn't even gain, 60 yards in a game. He turned it on in the last few games, so they're getting some rushing yards. Trubisky, their quarterback who was benched, now he's back in the starting lineup. So there's a lot of different narratives.
Right.
But who do you like?
Well, this is the most lopsided game. Tampa Bay, Washington is pretty lopsided, but I just, even as a Bears fan, and I think a lot of Bears fans feel like this, I don't really feel like we earned it.
We took them to overtime, though. We played them in the regular season, the Bears and Saints, and we lost in overtime.
Yeah.
So that's not lopsided.
That was weeks ago, and this team has been so up and down. But I'm saying the way we got into the playoffs, we had a big game against the Packers. They embarrassed us once again.
But they always embarrass us.
But that's not good. And the only way we got in was Kyler Murray got hurt in the Cardinals game. The Cardinals were winning that game. Kyler Murray gets hurt, and then obviously they end up losing, and we backdoor into the playoffs. And we're going against this Saint team. Drew Brees is coming back, getting back to himself. You just mentioned Kamara seems like he's back. You said Michael Thomas is coming back as well, right?
Probably. It's probable. He's practicing.
That's so it seems like the Saints are kind of getting back to where they were when they were dominating early in their season. Meanwhile, the Bears, we're hanging along, but as we've seen, we just haven't been able to win the big games. And a big factor is Roquan Smith going to play? Because we saw against the Packers, we were hanging in there, and then Roquan Smith got hurt. The defense, he's a big part of the defense. It's not going to be the same without him there. And the only chance I think the Bears have is our big money guy, Khalil Mack. He has to dominate this game. He needs 3 stacks, a forced fumble, interception. We need big time defense and special teams to overcome, because if we try to get in a scoring match with the Saints, we're going to lose.
Well, the Saints are one of the least sacks. Drew Brees is one of the least sacked quarterback in the league.
Yeah, they have a great offensive line.
Which is ironic because he throws a lot of short passes, a lot of time and stuff. So That makes it a little more difficult. So you think the Saints are going to blow out our Bears?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. I got it 45-24. Saints.
Oh.
Yeah, I just don't believe in our offense. And I think the only way, like I said, the only way if Roquan Smith plays and that defense just takes over the game, we get a couple special teams, we might need to call the refs and see what we can do. Because if we try to keep up scoring with this high-powered offense, do you trust Mitch Trubisky to be able to compete with Drew Brees?
Oh, no. Well, we know he's not there.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. I believe we played them close once before.
True.
We're going to play them close again because we're a better team now.
It's playoff time now.
It is playoff time, and they are in New Orleans, and it's very difficult to win on the road in the Superdome in New Orleans. But I just think the Bears match up well against them for some reason. So right now, I'm seeing a tie, 21-21.
You can't tie in the playoffs.
No. I'm seeing a tie right now. I'm seeing the Bears going tit for tat with them. Tit for tat all the way. Now, I got to decide who I think is going to win the game. So I'm going to just go with my heart instead of my head. And I'll say the Bears this time. We're going to pull it off with a overtime field goal.
Wow.
24-21. And we're going to upset the Saints. It's going to be the upset of the weekend. Because that's just the way I feel.
That would be, you know what? That would be great. That would be something to see, especially winning it on a field goal. We know what happened 2 years ago.
Right.
So if we won a game on a field goal with Cairo Santos having an amazing season, that would be great. And like you said, it would have to be like that. We would have to dominate on defense, keep them under, probably 28. Because
I think it'd be low scoring.
Yeah, I don't think our offense could score more than 4 touchdowns in the game.
Either.
So, yeah, if we dominate the defensive side of the ball, if we make some plays on special teams, if everything clicks, we have a chance. And, since you think the Bears are going to win, I would go to DraftKings or go to Vegas because you'll win a lot of money betting on the Bears right now.
Well, I'm saying this with my heart. So my heart is saying pick the Bears. Another close game, overtime, but this time we get the field goal. But my head is saying, don't be a fool and don't put no money on it. So, hey, to all you winners out there listening to the show, I wouldn't put a nickel on this game. I'm a Bear fan, but I ain't no fool. Mama didn't raise no fool. But I'm in a wishful thinking mode, and I do mean it. Like, if I really thought the Bears didn't have a chance, I wouldn't pick the Bears. I do think since the way we played them last time, there is that glimmer of hope, and we're a better team right now in the sense of the word because we can somewhat run the football now.
Yeah, but hey, I hope the Bears win, but the way they played this season and the way we just kind of fluked our way into the playoffs, I just, it's tough seeing them beating a team like the Saints, a veteran team like the Saints.
Yeah, so we'll just see how that goes. Now, the last game is a rivalry game. The Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cleveland beat the Pittsburgh Steelers to get into the playoffs, but I think that was kind of a false positive. The Steelers benched a lot of people, a lot of their starters. But hey, Cleveland still had to win the game. When they played earlier in the season, Pittsburgh dominated Cleveland. They won that game easily. So, this is the third matchup, kind of the rubber match. Little FYI news, Cleveland's coach, Kevin Stefanski, he won't be coaching. And I think that, that could have an impact when your head coach won't coach due to COVID. So I know the Cleveland coach and a few other guys won't be in the lineup because of COVID. But they're still going to play the game. They're playing in Pittsburgh. So who do you like in that matchup? The Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I got to go with Pittsburgh. I can't see Big Ben and this veteran team with that amazing defense losing in the first round, especially not to Cleveland. They're going to be motivated. They're not going to want to take an L to Cleveland. They've been kind of their big brother in a division for so long. And we know Cleveland beat them last week, but they won 24-22 against a bunch of backups. You know, they barely beat them, and Big Ben didn't play. So many others didn't play. And I think, you know, having that week of rest, being a veteran team, they know how to handle business. And, you know, I think Cleveland's getting there, but I don't think they're quite ready yet to take the reins in this division.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Pittsburgh, I think, is just a better team overall. TJ Watt has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, I think, they lead the NFL in sacks. They blitz more than anybody, so I think Cleveland's going to have a little problem with that. We know what Big Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster and all those guys can do on offense, and they're at home.
Yeah.
Again, home advantage isn't technically the same, but I think Pittsburgh does have more of a comfort zone when they don't travel. And Cleveland, you know, this is all new to them. And to not have your head coach there, and they're going to have 2 players out as well due to the COVID protocol. They got a Pro Bowl guard. He's going to be out. And that's going to hurt them. You know, I don't think they can afford to lose anybody.
Yeah.
Because they're playing a better team, and now you lose your coach, you lose a Pro Bowl guard, so it's going to be, because of COVID, I think that's going to make it a little different.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned the Steelers defense. They, you know, one of the best defenses in the league. It seems like every year, and especially this year behind TJ Watt, they really get after the passer. And if you look at, that's the one thing about Baker Mayfield. If you give him time, a clean pocket, he can make all the throws. But if you look at his numbers under pressure, that's when he throws the picks. That's when, you know, the ball can sail a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Steelers going to be coming after him every snap. So, I like I said, I think that Cleveland they certainly made a huge turnaround, you know. But I think they need a couple more seasons. And you mentioned with the COVID protocol, I think they would have needed like all the stars to align to beat this Steelers team. Especially they gave a lot of their big guys a week of rest. So their veteran team, I think the Steelers are going to come in and handle business. I got them winning 31-17.
You know, I think Cleveland has a chance if they can run the football.
Yeah, Chubb is a beast.
They were voted a kind of a consensus vote among peers as having the best offensive line in football. They have a great 1-2 punch at running back with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb only played in 12 games this year and still rushed for over 1,000 yards. Had 12 TDs. He averages about 5 yards a carry.
That's crazy.
So that when Nick Chubb is in the lineup, they run that football well. Then they kind of do a fire and ice thing with Kareem Hunt. So I think if Cleveland does have a chance, if they get that ground and pound game going, that keeps Pittsburgh's defense off the field. I mean, keeps their defense on the field, their offense off the field. It kind of muddies up the game. And then they can kind of use the play action more. Baker Mayfield is a much better quarterback in play action. He had 28 TDs, 8 interceptions. 26 TDs, 8 interceptions. He had a 95 passer rating, so he's been really efficient this year. So I see Cleveland having a chance because I do think without their coach, Odell Beckham Jr. is not in the lineup. It's their first playoff game. They're missing a Pro Bowl guard, missing some talent there.
Yeah.
I think they're going to look to run the football more. They're depending on Baker Mayfield because the Steeler blitz is so effective. And so I give Cleveland a chance to win this game. So
what's the score? What score you got?
I'm going with the Steelers, though. 28. With that being said, 28-14. But I think Cleveland is going to show up.
Yeah, I think they're going to come out and they're going to get their best effort. And like I said, I think the tide is slowly turning. But I think it's kind of like what we saw, in the Patriots division. They dominate that division. The Steelers have dominated their division. And I think until Big Ben hangs it up or he just isn't the same at all, he's definitely, not in his prime anymore, but he's still a vet, still a leader. And until he decides it's over and passes the reins on, I think they're going to own Cleveland in this matchup.
Okay. So that's it. That's our NFL first round preview. We had a few differences there, but, we got the Tennessee-Baltimore matchup on Sunday. Mike Burr went with Tennessee. I went with Baltimore.
Yep.
New Orleans versus our Bears. Mike went with New Orleans, the Saints. I went with the Bears. And then the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, we agreed on that to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's going to be some good football Saturday and Sunday. All you winners, tune in. It's just going to be live. It's just a great day to watch football. It's going to be like a 1 o'clock game Eastern time, 4 o'clock game Eastern time, then like an 8:15 game Eastern time on both days. So you could just kind of veg out throughout the days, kind of set your schedule around and watch some good football.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think the matchups just seem to work out perfectly. I think every matchup is exciting. Storylines and different, exciting players and stars on both sides. And it's going to be an exciting first round.
What would be the biggest upset on the Saturday games when you got Indianapolis, Buffalo, Rams, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Washington?
I mean, definitely. If Washington won, I would be super surprised.
Yeah.
I just can't see Brady going out like that.
Yeah, that would be ironic that a team with a losing record beats the GOAT. What about in the Sunday games? What would be the biggest upset in your opinion? Baltimore, Tennessee, Chicago, New Orleans, Cleveland, Pittsburgh.
I definitely think your pick, the Bears. If the Bears beat New Orleans, I'll be elated. That would be a crazy upset, and that would be a historic game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that would be the upset as well. Who you think is the easy favorite? Who you think is going to have the easiest game on the Saturday games?
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Washington at all, and I think Brady, Bruce Arians, and the boys, they're going to be ready to roll. Mm-hmm. What about the easiest game on the Sunday games?
I'm actually going to go with Pittsburgh, even though I think New Orleans will win pretty easy, but I think the Bears are going to come out with their best effort, and I think Cleveland will too, but I think Pittsburgh, I think they're gonna play at such a high level, and they're going to really control the game, especially from the defensive side of things.
I'm going to go with Baltimore. I think Baltimore, like I said, they got upset by this team last year. They felt they were the better team, but Tennessee were on the roll. And I think Baltimore is circling this game. I think they're going to be chomping at the bit, and I think they're going to show up and show out.
Yep.
So I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're going to really surprise us and have a big game. April T on the ones and twos. You heard our predictions. You heard our picks. Give us some hot takes, super producer April T.
So, Steph Curry showing out against the Portland Trail Blazers earlier this week. He scored a 62-point career high. And not only did he do this, but he's the first player since Los Angeles Lakers star Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, in 2005 to score at least 30 points in each half of a game. People act like they forgot about Steph Curry. I saw, I think I was watching ESPN or something, and they did a list of the top 10 guys in the NBA. And all three of the guys, none of them had Steph Curry on that top 10 list. That's crazy. This before the season started. I'm like, what, did y'all forget about Steph Curry? He had, he got hurt last season and they had the worst record in the NBA, but.
And that shows you how important he is.
He's still Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, if you watch the highlights from that game, it's, Steph being Steph, the shots. But people forget he's one of the best ball handlers in the league too. He can get around almost anybody, get to the basket and finish, with the floaters and the layups. And I think because a lot of people were saying Dame is now the best point guard in the league. Like you said, they kind of forget he got hurt and they forgot who he was. You know,
Right.
2-time MVP, 3-time champion. So I think he wanted to rub it in Dame's face a little bit. And I'm excited for when they play again because, you know, Dame isn't one to back down.
Yeah, that's right. They were playing Port. That's right. And he did put the foo-fops on him. And one thing about Steph Curry, man, it's like a video game, man. Sometimes he chuck the ball up. It's not even real. You're like, any other coach would call that a bad shot because you're like, is he balanced? Is he too far out? Is he just throwing it up? But it's bottoms, man.
Yeah, the best shooter we've ever seen.
Yeah, best shooter of all time. I agree.
And to continue on another career high, Bradley Beal just dropped 60 points tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. They still lost, but Beal, you know, he was looking good, and people were thinking he might leave the Wizards after the season if he can.
Yeah, well, Bill has been phenomenal, man. I mean, he's on a losing team, but he gets his money every night, but unfortunately, it hasn't equated to a lot of wins. You know, I think it's going to be good for the fans to have Westbrook now in Washington because you got another star name and somebody fun to watch, you know. But I don't think it's going to equate to a lot of wins for the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, people sleep on Bill. He did average 30 points a game last year. You know, he's a hooper. He's been hooping well for a long time, but I think that's going to be the story for the Wizards this year. You're going to look at the stats. You're going to see, Russell Westbrook's hooping, Bill is hooping, but it's not going to amount to a lot of W's. But, you know, they're going to get their money every night.
Yeah, because I think Russell Westbrook already has 3 or 4 triple-doubles, but they still lost. They're still losing. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's just how it's going to go.
Yep.
And on to football. We'll start off with the Heisman Trophy winner. The first wide receiver to be awarded the Heisman Trophy since 1991 was none other than Alabama's wide receiver, Devontae Smith. And here are just some stats from this season. 20 touchdowns. He averaged 15.6 receiving yards. Receptions. And then he's ran 1,641 yards.
Yeah, I mean, he had a dominant season, winning the Heisman. You know, as a receiver, it's tough to do.
Right.
And, you know, playing for Bama, you know, he was the best player on Alabama this year, so it makes sense. And he had a great season. I'm excited to see what he does in the championship.
Yeah, so far he was the best player on the best team with the best stats. So, you know, usually it's a little bias, we know, toward quarterbacks. But I think the committee did the right thing this year. He should have won the Heisman Trophy.
Yep.
But that game is coming up, right? So, Alabama, Ohio State, championship game. And when is that game? Is that going to be sometime like?
I think it's this weekend. It is Monday the 11th. So it's right after the NFL games this weekend. They're going to be kicking off on Monday at 7. So yeah, we gotta go ahead and talk about that. So this was a question we were debating about this during the Clemson game. So this is a question because this is a big question here.
I know where you're going.
Should Ohio State even be in the playoffs? They played 6 regular season games, obviously due to COVID and what's going on. But they only played 6 games. They make the playoffs. They beat Clemson. Now they're in the championship with only 7 wins.
Yes, and Dabo Swinney, the coach of Clemson, said, "Hey, I'm not saying this because we're playing them. I don't have a personal vendetta. I don't believe they should be here because they only played 6 games." And guess what? I agree with them. I don't think they deserve the right to play in the Final Four championship series with only 6 wins under their belt. They were 6-0, and it's not their fault. We know that. We know it was COVID protocol, and they had to skip some games, and the Big Ten had all the issues and, you know, deal with it. But they only played 6 games, and they're too talented, and they have too many 5-star recruits to have that time to not deal with injuries, get that extra time in the weight room, get that extra night to eat a steak, do their homework, rest up, and then come near the end of the season, and now they're fully rested. They're not banged up. They've been chilling and preparing all year, and now they're 7-0 in the championship game. But the Crimson Tide, they've played 12 games. They're 12-0. And in football, 5 games is a big difference.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I don't think Ohio State should have been there. I think it was unfair. And I know COVID was a factor, and I know talent-wise they deserve to be there, obviously, because you can see what they do on the field. But you just can't give a team like that much rest, that much extra weight room time, that much extra work on their injuries, and say, hey, man, just chill for another second. We ain't playing this week anyway. And then you come into the playoffs, and now you're the freshest team with the freshest legs.
And before I give my answer,
come on with it, brother.
I do want to say I think it was a hard choice for the people that set this up, because if you let them in, now you have what you said, and everything you said is valid. But if you keep them out, then all the Ohio State fans are going to be like, yo, so because of a pandemic, you going to keep us out? So either way, it was a tough choice. But I completely disagree. Yes, they should be there because money talks. They're one of the biggest brands in the nation, in the world. They're internationally recognized college for football. And let's face it, they hung 49 on Clemson because they deserve to be there. They're a great team with great players, and they obviously deserve to be there. Justin Fields threw 6 touchdowns on them. Sermon ran for almost 200 yards. They're a great team. They deserve to play. And it wasn't any other good options.
They hung
sounded
49.
well rested. That's what it sounds.
That's what it was.
That game sounds
Their
like
legs were strong.
impossible.
They weren't tackled all year. You had a bunch of 5-star recruits that only played half a season. Of course they hung 49.
Justin Fields got hurt and still came in through 3 more touchdowns.
Because he was well rested.
He was fresh.
I want to hear that. But the problem is, now I would get what you're saying more if it was like another hot team where you're like, okay, they shouldn't have kept this team out. They played a full season. They were dominant. It wasn't no other team like that. You had Texas A&M. Oklahoma. Florida was the seventh in the nation.
No,
they
we
had
don't even have
2
to go
regular
that far.
season losses.
Texas A&M, they were at number 5, but they were 9-1. And Texas A&M is just as big as Ohio State.
Yeah.
Big fan base, big football tradition. A&M is like, you guys shafted us. We were 9-1 this year.
They lost.
Yeah, but they were 9-1 though. And you're going to take a team that's 6-0. That's just not fair.
No L's.
Yeah, but
and you got Justin Fields, you got Sermon, you got household names that people know, identify with. You know, Texas A&M, of course, they're a big fan base as well, but I don't think they're a better football team than OSU. And you got to think about last year. OSU Clemson, we know how that game ended, all the drama in that game, giving them the rematch. I think it's the game the fans wanted. It was an exciting game. I think OSU Clemson was a bigger sale than Texas A&M
No,
Clemson.
Texas A&M 9-1. Do you know their only loss this year was to Alabama?
Right.
So they only lost one game, and they lost to the number 1 team. But everybody else they beat. They beat Florida. They beat Mississippi State. They beat Arkansas, South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee, UNC. They had some big wins.
Who's Texas A&M quarterback?
I don't know.
Not Justin Fields. That's what I'm saying. It's about the money, you know, and it's a great business
Texas A&M
decision.
has a huge. Come on, man, the state of Texas.
No, Texas A&M has a huge fan base too, but right now this season, OSU has more household name players. They have more guys that are going to go in the first round. And I think that it's a business decision. The OSU Clemson rematch, Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields. It made sense from a business side. And
but
everything
come on.
you're saying is valid though.
If you're Texas A&M, you're 9-1. Your only loss was to Alabama, their second game of the season. Other than that, you're 9-1. And you're watching the OSU, the Buckeyes, get in. They only played 6 games. You played 10. That's 4 more games that you have to risk your record, your win-losses. You fought all year. They play 6 games and they jump you to number 4 in the rankings. You're number 5. You're on the outside looking in. I just don't like it. April T, what you think? Let's let April T break the tie here.
I have to side with Mike B on this.
Which
Ohio
which who?
State. Ohio State is well rested. They definitely have an advantage against Bama this weekend. I mean, but to say that they should be out of the championship, that's pretty tough. But I can see that argument. So I think I'm gonna decide with Mike B on this one. I agree that Ohio State shouldn't be in the championship.
Thank you.
It should have been for the first time. You had to have at least played 10 games. It's not like they played 10.
Right.
They played 7 versus 12.
Right.
And Alabama is they're in the SEC on top of that. So
right.
Just leave it at that.
And it's kind of like letting the Lakers play half a season, and then when they get in the playoffs and they start dominating, you be like, see, I told you. Yeah, we know they the Lakers. We know they could dominate, but you let them play half of it. So I'm not denying everything you're saying about Ohio State. I'm not denying. 5-star recruits, great quarterback. Talent-wise, they do deserve to be there, but they didn't have enough games. Send them home. But anyway,
and I do see your side from the competitive standpoint. You would feel some type of way if you were a Texas A&M player, and obviously Clemson feels some type of way, and Bama, they're not going to publicly make excuses, but it's probably they feel some type of way as well. But cry about it.
It is. It's already done. Business. It's business. All right. So winners, hey, hit us up in the comments. We definitely want to hear from you guys, your predictions and your picks for the NFL first round wild card weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then we definitely want to hear what you guys have to say on this Ohio State, should they had even got in debate. Talent-wise, we know, but record-wise, should they? And I know COVID is a factor. So, yeah, factor that in. I mean, it's a real convo. But let's talk about one more thing before we wrap up the podcast. We're having a good one flowing. Who's been the most surprising team in the NBA? Because the NBA is off to a start. We're not going to go too deep yet because they've only played about 6 or 7 games per team. But since April brought up Curry and Bradley Beal, I just figured I'd go there. Who's the most surprising team to you right now in the NBA?
Let's pick one for each conference.
Okay.
So let's start with the East. I think, looking at the standings, obviously it's super early, and with the COVID scheduling, especially, like, teams are, they're playing like 2 of the same team, and
yeah,
so it's like it's hard to evaluate talent right now with this small of a sample size. But the Toronto Raptors are surprising in a bad way.
Yeah,
they're 1-5.
1-5.
They've
been awful.
And you see a team that obviously they won a championship 2 years ago. Obviously, this team is a lot different. Since that time, they lost Kawhi. And in this offseason, they lost both of their big men. They lost Marc Gasol and Ibaka.
True.
Those were 2 huge losses for them. And, they're sliding right now. They're not looking as dominant as you would expect from this caliber team. They lost to the Pelicans twice. Which the Pelicans are hooping, but they are a young team. You would expect the vets to be able to, at least split that series. They lost to the Sixers, who are playing good, lost to the Celtics, and they lost to the Spurs. The only team they beat was the Knicks. So it's like, you just don't expect that from Toronto. Again, it's early. They got plenty of time to turn around. But I think the biggest surprise has been Pascal Siakam. He's a guy we've been expecting to take that next step. He's only averaging 17 points, which was good when you had Kawhi and Laurie and Ibaka and all those other guys. But, he has to step up and be the guy now.
Yes, it's his team. They paid him.
Yeah, he got the extension. He needs to be somewhere around at least 25, at least around 30, So if they want to have a chance, and you're also going to need guys like OG Anunoby to step up, because they're missing, a lot of players that left, in free agency. And if they want to turn this thing around, they're going to need Siakam to become the guy they paid him to be.
Okay. I have to agree with that. I didn't know they would come out the gate this bad.
Yeah.
Mine would have to be, believe it or not, the New York Knicks. It's ironic you said that in your Toronto's synopsis because the Knicks actually have a winning record.
Yeah. So far.
They're 4-3 right now. And I didn't see that coming. I just didn't see that coming. Started the season off, they lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Pacers. They lost to the 76ers, so you thought it was going to be the same old Knicks. But then they bounced back. They beat the Bucks.
Yeah.
They beat Cleveland.
Yep.
So they beat the Raptors in the split. They split with the Raptors. They beat Atlanta. I didn't think they would beat Atlanta.
Yeah.
So they have some surprising wins over quality teams.
And tonight they just beat the Jazz.
Right. So Tom Thibodeau has them playing some good ball. And I didn't see that coming, And I know it's super early. They've only played, 8 games now, 7 or 8 games. But I still didn't think the Knicks would have a winning record even early in the season because I thought they were just god-awful. They didn't do anything in free agency. They kind of stood pat, worked with what they had. But Tom Thibodeau has them coming out the gate playing some good, confident basketball.
Yeah, and then I think you got to give most of the credit to Tom Thibodeau. They do have some young players that it's kind of like it's like a castaway team. It's like players that have potential, but teams were like, nah, we're gonna go in a different direction. But they always had talent, and a coach like Tom Thibodeau, he's bringing that like physical, scrappy basketball back to New York, which is perfect for the city. And, he has them hooping. They're going to play tough on defense. Julius Randle's been playing well. Eifert Payton's been playing well. They got R.J. Barrett still. So they have a squad. They did bring in Austin Rivers in the offseason. So they got talent. And, they're going to be one of those teams where I don't expect them to make a playoff run or anything like that. But they're going to be one of those teams where you're going to have to beat them. If you're going to New York to play, you can't take the night off. You're going to have to bring your best effort and beat this team every time.
Okay. I like it. Now, let's go to the West End. Who's your surprise for good or bad in the West?
I got to go with my dark horse team from the bubble. They let me down, but now it seems like they're finally swinging things around. I got to go with the Pelicans.
Okay.
They're 4-3 right now. And they're playing some good basketball. They beat some good teams. I love getting Steven Adams. I think that was one of the most underrated moves in this offseason.
I do too.
Getting a big, he's a consistent double-double, plays hard on defense. And I think him and Zion are like a perfect front court for the Pelicans. Brandon Ingram is playing like an all-star once again. Zion seems to be in shape and back healthy. Lonzo is playing well. Eric Bledsoe was a good pickup as well. Josh Hart, JJ Redick. So they got a squad.
Yeah.
And with Zion, they're going to go as far as Zion takes them. Zion, right now, he's averaging 20 a night, 8 rebounds. They're going to need that production and a little more if they want to compete in the West. But so far, they're hooping. Brandon Ingram is dropping 25 a night. And they got a solid team. They're playing hard. They're scrappy. They play fast. And again, they're going to be one of those teams where you got to show up and play them all out. You can't take a night off against them.
I agree. I like them. My surprise would be the Dallas Mavericks. I've watched them. They're 3-4. We know who Luka Doncic is. Luka Doncic is just a phenomenal player. But I don't know, do they need Porzingis that much? Like, is he that, Kristaps Porzingis, is he that big of a key to what they do? Because they have a losing record right now. And when they look bad, they look bad.
Yeah.
And when they look good, they look okay. They picked up Josh Richardson. Tim Hardaway Jr. has become a nice three-point specialist. Willie Cauley-Stein, they kind of revitalizing his career. But I don't know. Do they need Porzingis that bad? Because they just don't look good at all. They showed flashes in the bubble. They played against the Clippers really hard. challenged them in that series, and you could see that they were going to turn the corner kind of the way the Phoenix Suns did. They're 5-2, but they look like they're kind of going in another direction. I don't like the way they're playing ball at all, and I don't think it's going to get any better unless Porzingis really has that big of an impact on the squad.
Yeah, and Porzingis is definitely a big loss, but that's what we've seen from him. He has trouble staying healthy, and I think it's like a height limit, because sometimes we see that from we saw the same thing from Yao Ming. He was 7'6". I think Porzingis is like 7'4". It's like when you get to that height, it's hard to be jumping and running 82 games a night, or in this season 72. So yeah, he is a huge part of his team, because when he's healthy, he is one of the best, if not the best centers in the league. And he's versatile too. He could pass, he could shoot it, he could score down low, he could take you off the dribble, and he is a huge part of this team, and he's one of the best rebounders in the league. So, but I think it's bigger than Porzingis.
Okay.
He's a big loss, but this team, they don't play defense.
Yes, that's true.
When you have, as great as Luka is, when you have teams saying, when the Lakers played the Mavericks, Kuzma said whoever Luka was guarding, that's who was going to score that play. So if that's your leader, that's your best player, and people are targeting him, it's not like we see that with the Warriors. But Steph Curry's a guard though, so a small guard. Where Luka, he has the frame, he has the size, and if you want to win a championship, they don't have any defensive type of players. If you look at their roster, everybody you mentioned, Richardson, Finney Smith, Hardaway, none of those guys really commit on a defensive end, and those are the leaders of their team right now. They don't have a veteran like a Iguodala or a. They got Cauley Stein. He's a solid defender, but I think they need to find some vets. Maybe bring in a guy like Joakim Noah. Maybe bring in
no Joakim Noah. Never say that name again. He's done. Put a fork in him.
But what I'm saying, and that was just an example. But what I'm saying, I think they need to find some vets probably around a waiver time that are dogs on defense.
Okay, sure up to D.
They need to bring in a couple dogs that can set the tone, bring some energy, call guys out, and force them to play defense, because you can't just outscore everybody.
True. And
in the games where they need to lock down on that end, they just haven't been able to do it.
Okay. So that's it. Those are teams we think are kind of over and or underachieving early in the NBA season. We're going to start giving you a little more NBA because the season is starting to roll. It's been a good podcast. April T, how you doing over there?
Doing pretty good.
Got anything else?
One last thing. So it's rumored that the Patriots aren't going to re-sign Cam Newton. And Cam Newton still wants to play, and people are really thinking that he may actually be signed as a lead quarterback for the Washington football team for next season.
I don't see it. I think Cam is done. I would love to see him retire. And I mean, who am I to say that? I mean, as long as you could play and make, 7 figures, why wouldn't you? But if he was to retire, I know he made a boatload of money. He still has TV commercials to this day. He was an MVP. He did lead the Panthers to the Super Bowl, Pro Bowler, Heisman Trophy winner. I don't think he has anything else to prove. But, maybe he wants to just continue to go. But he kind of reminds me of a boxer that's on his last leg and just wants to go in for one more fight. I really believe that. I think it's going to be a disaster if he goes to the Washington football team.
Yeah. Cam is, it seems like he's closer to the end of his career, but it's reported that Washington wants to give him like a 2-year deal for like $50 million. So
$50 million.
Yeah, that's what's being reported.
Take back everything I said. Everything I said, I take it back.
I mean, the Washington football team, they have a good fan base, but then they don't, So Cam Newton will draw the crowd once the pandemic is over. no matter if he's playing Cam Newton from when they made it to the Super Bowl or, if he's a little dusty.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a big name.
He's going to bring in the crowd. So I think that's maybe a good investment because Washington football team is going under a complete rebranding.
Right.
Their fans were kind of just over the team. They received a lot of flack for their old name. So I think it's actually a smart move to get someone who's well established. People love Cam Newton. He used to play for that former coach, so the current coach. So I think it would.
Yeah, he played for Ron Rivera. But I will say this. Let me ask you guys this. Is Cam Newton a Hall of Famer?
That's a great question. Man, that's a really good question. He's definitely had some, obviously had an MVP season.
Then you got to remember it's the football Hall of. Well, I guess it is the National Football League Hall of Fame. Is it Football Hall of Fame or is it for the National Football League? Because the Basketball Hall of Fame is just for basketball. It's not for the NBA. It's for basketball. Is the one in Canton, Ohio for the NFL or is it just for football? Is it for body of work?
Well, it says Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, so it's for pro football only.
So
you can't count his accomplishments in college, which were excellent at Auburn.
Yeah, it seems like the College Football Hall of Fame is something separate.
Okay. So
if we're just talking about his NFL career.
Okay.
That's tough. I think he's going to be borderline unless he goes to Washington and has some resurgence. Because, he's looked bad sometimes. He's like an up and down kind of guy.
Okay, if it ended today, if he retired tomorrow, is Cam Newton a Hall of Fame quarterback?
Well, let me ask you this. Is Tony Romo a Hall of Famer quarterback?
No.
But do you think Tony Romo, I can see them letting him in, though.
No.
Tony Romo gets in, Cam Newton gets in.
Oh, yeah. But
I agree with that.
If they let Romo in, no, I'm boycotting. I'm going to be out there with a sign saying, you're a good broadcaster now, but no, he doesn't deserve to be in the Hall. No big major accomplishment. He got some numbers, but he never had those. He never had 2 or 3 game-defining moments. But he's had some bad moments going the other way, fumbling snaps and choking in the playoffs. No. Romo's got some stats, but he can't be in the Hall.
Let's look at some of Cam's numbers.
Okay.
So, 31,000 yards.
Okay.
190 touchdowns, but 118 picks. So that's not the best ratio. And, if you look at his seasons, it's kind of, up and down. Outside of that MVP season, which was in 2015? Wow, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's about right, 2015.
Yeah, so outside of that, where he had 3,800 yards and 35 touchdowns, that was probably the only season where he was like a consensus top 5 quarterback. Outside of that, just looking at the numbers, obviously not talking about popularity and all that, but just numbers wise, he probably only had one season where you could say he was the best or top 5. Every other season, he was kind of in the middle of the pack. So I agree with April, though. If they let Tony Romo in, you got to let Cam in, too. But I don't think if he retires today, he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. I have to agree. I don't think he's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. So maybe unless he has a miracle at the end of his career. But like I said, if Tony Romo gets in, then we letting a lot of people in. I'm getting in if Tony Romo gets in.
Yeah.
So, hey, y'all, that's the podcast. We had a great time today. Mike Burr, how'd you feel about the podcast today?
It was a great show.
Great show. April T, how you feel today?
Feeling great.
Yeah, so, hey, look, all our winners out there, so glad you tuned in. Continue to listen. Share it, please. Get it out there. If this is your first time listening, subscribe, hit the like button. But hit us up in the comments, man. We really want to hear from you guys. We had some really interesting topics today, very opinionated today, but we want to hear your opinions. We don't want to make this just all about us. We like to read the comments, and we're definitely going to have one of us 3, if not all 3 of us, respond to your comments. So, hey, that's our podcast. Hit us up on our next one. We're going to talk about the next round of NFL playoffs. We're going to dive a little deeper into the NBA. April T on the ones and twos, super producer, going to have some hot takes for you. So come on back. We're going to keep it rocking and rolling. That's our podcast. And you know how we do it. Mike B, drop the beat.